Conference will now be recorded.
You're on.
Okay. Thought I printed out a agenda, but evidently I didn't. So let's. Good morning, Griffin.
Morning. How's everyone?
Great.
Everyone's well.
Good.
Living the
So
dream.
let's call the meeting to order. I'm gonna go offline here for a second and see if I can find the agenda.
I owe you a call back. Sorry, I haven't got back to you yet.
It's okay. This is a little public, but I knew I'd catch up with you.
You know where to find me.
What, 4 more days?
I guess so.
So who's counting?
Five. Trying to wrap everything up. Not gonna happen.
Did I hear a rumor that it's open bar at the Lanyard Link on behalf of Griff?
Links bring the credit card.
Okay, I guess we're gonna have to wait for Jerry or come back. All right, let's call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. I'd like to approve the minutes for September 16th, 2020. Long time ago. Everybody's seen them and ready to approve. That's a yes.
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Yes,
Second.
aye.
Yes.
No, who's the second?
Link.
Thank you, Link.
Okay, the next item would be the correspondence, annual report to the Board of Selectmen, which was done. I chose to have Linda give the presentation because she's more up to date on the stuff than I was at the time, so she made a wonderful presentation and was accepted. Looks like Jerry's trying to come back.
Good.
Public comment. Have we received any communications, Linda?
I had one from Jay, who said he really liked the improvements in Harwich Center.
Excellent. So we're getting a lot of positives as well as the opposition, so I think it'll be received very well. It's kind of like the roundabout in East Harwich that was received negative comments until it was there for a year or so, and then it was gladly accepted. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning, I'm back. Sorry.
Yes, that's okay. All right, so the next one is old business. I'd like to take something out of order.
Jerry,
and have
just
an election.
one other thing
Go ahead.
I guess on public comment. The Mass DOT has done a speed study. I can't remember if I shared it with the group yet, but they did a speed study of Route 28 from, I think, from Falmouth to Orleans. And as part of that speed study, they changed some of the speed limits. And I think these benefit the town. So I think the speed limit through, I don't know if they've gotten through, this came out at the Cape Cod Joint Transportation Committee meeting, I think maybe 2 months ago. And it was the first that was kind of being released by Mass DOT. And you know, they knew they had to move forward and change some of the signs to, you know, correlate with their new speed study. But basically, from what it's all mile markers, but from my quick research, it looks like from Bank Street, if not a little bit before, and through Harwichport, the center of Harwichport, the speeds will be 25 miles per hour, which I think is a reduction from what's there today.
That's awesome.
And I know that Jay had brought that up and other folks had brought that up. That doesn't necessarily solve all the traffic calming, issues that could also be implemented, but I think it's a step in the right direction. I think, Mass DOT is realizing that it's a high traffic area with a lot going on, and it's really a village center. So I think that's just a positive that I wanted to bring up to everyone, because I know speed has been an issue through there.
Okay, one question, one comment. The question, I guess, is, can you send that to Linda and I,
Yep.
so that we will have it
Yep.
on file, so that if there's anybody who speaks to it, we'll have some knowledge of it.
Got it.
Can you add me?
Yes.
Can you add me to that list, please? Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I think the police departments were also notified, but I don't know how the notification
Yeah.
works. Honestly, they say
Okay.
something. But I'll send that for
Okay.
you. Yes, I'll do that right now.
All right, and also, how does it work that the state can just arbitrarily, I guess, decide the speed limit when we've tried to have speeds changed in town and run up against the brick wall, or having to do the 85 percentile? Are they all powerful laws that they can do as they wish?
Pick me, please. Do as I say, not as I do.
Somebody can respond.
So
Do as I
somebody can
say, not as
respond.
I do. But Griff, I am pretty sure that Harwichport was already had the special legislation for 25.
okay, I wasn't sure.
Nah, I am like probably, maybe Aaron can speak to it more articulately than me, but I'm pretty sure from Bank Street right up like the post office or Dairy Queen or something there, it releases back to a 35.
Okay.
Which was already a 25.
That
Question.
doesn't answer. Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, hey, Link, it's strange you have 25 miles per hour, say, from Dunkin' Donuts up to the post office on one side. On the other side is 35 miles an hour. I've always found that difficult to understand. Same.
If it is, it's a inconsistency, and maybe what Griff's talking about is to address the inconsistencies they might have found.
I think this will remedy that. Like I said, it's a bunch of mile markers. I haven't had a chance to really focus on it, but I'll shoot it over. And it's a special speed regulation. So I don't know if that allows the state to do things differently. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And it's been adjusted a number of times. This is Amendment K to Special Speed Regulation 326. So their amendments A through J were already promulgated, and now this is the latest update, which includes changes to existing speeds in Falmouth, Barnstable, Yarmouth, Harwich, and Chatham. So I'll send this over. This is all documented in this document that I have here. I'll shoot it over to you guys.
Okay, thank you very much.
Of course.
Yeah, I've noticed that when I approach Howard Center, somewhere around the post office is a 25-mile-an-hour sign. And then coming from the other direction, somewhere between Freeman and Wichita Harbor Club Road there, Snow Inn Road. Prior to that, and after the harbor, there's a 35-mile sign, but I don't recall seeing one that's on the road. It says 25. All right, going back to old business, I'd like to take something out of order as the election. I'd like to step down and let change of pace come. I've been doing this for a few years, and due to my surgery, I'm going to step back a little bit and relax. So I'd like to nominate Linda to be chairperson. Aram, you had mentioned at one of our last in-person meetings that you wouldn't mind taking notes. Is that still a possibility?
Sure, I can do that. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so I hereby nominate Linda Cebula to be chairperson of the Town of Howard's Traffic Safety Committee. All in favor?
Need a second.
Second.
Sorry, Linda, you're absolutely right. That's why we like you so much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. Perfect. Linda, you are now hereby chairperson. Would you like to take over the meeting, please?
That was a good one, Jerry.
I'm putting it on my resume now.
Part of the reason is I'm taking off to an appointment at a little after 11, so this way here we can have some
Okay,
consistency.
so I
Thank you,
will do
Linda, for
that.
stepping up. That is very well appreciated. Jerry, you had a question, and then Linda's going to take over.
Yeah, Linda, were you vice chair?
Yes,
Well, Jerry, is there going to be a vice chair?
well, I
And-
think that we should make a motion to elect Happy Aram for clerk and get a second and make that, and then see if someone will step up to be vice chair. So motion to nominate and elect Aram for secretary of the Traffic Safety Committee.
Second.
Second.
Any opposed? All those in favor?
Aye.
Yay.
I will add
Congratulations.
this to my resume as well. This is quite an honor.
Is there someone who'd like to step up to be vice chair? Wow, don't all speak at once. Yeah, Griffin.
I'll do it
I was
before.
thinking Clem might be a nice addition.
All right, how about we just let that sit for a bit? Okay. Back to old business. Aram, I'll keep taking notes just to clean
Okay.
out this meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Old business. Pleasant Bay Road, Route 39. What is remaining to be completed, Lincoln?
So we just installed some drainage about a month ago. Haven't paid the bill because the drainage and the drainage is upstream in both directions, but the drainage on Route 39 is not to our satisfaction and was not taking the water. The water was actually captured in the tracks going by the basins. We've asked for it to be milled. They did one. That's a work in progress. The reason we're doing that is because we puddled down at that corner, despite fairly new drainage installed at that corner. I've got a work order in to address the basin right on that inside corner that is sunk in a little bit. We'll do that
Where
in-house.
is that? Where is that? Is that would be the northwest corner?
Northwest corner, yes. Yep. That basin right there. We had added drainage several years ago to that basin, leaching capacity, and it still is insufficient. So we're capturing the water in both directions, upstream one on Pleasant Bay and on both directions on Route 39. The one towards the south on 39 hasn't been doing anything. The basin, we need to do some more milling. The contractor's got some more work to do. Like I said, we haven't paid the bill because haven't been satisfied with that. Once that is done, we'll be able to tell if those measures have eliminated the ponding. If not, we'll add more drainage at that corner if we can fit it in. Usually, this is Chris Nickerson's work. Usually, he's pretty successful and he captures water upstream and keeps it. Other than that, I think we're pretty complete with that intersection. You know, I haven't looked up for the accidents. I know there's some minor accidents that still happen there, but it's usually every time I've looked into a report, it's been, you know, failure to stop at one of the stop signs that are flashing and said, also with a sign under it that says, cross traffic does not yield or something to that extent. So,
Madam
Jerry?
Chair. Looking at the printout that that you sent along, that was from the county back in 2016 when they did a traffic safety review of the intersection, which showed a lot of the improvements there. There is some things that are left on there. It's narrowing up the median from 4 to 2 feet and moving the fog lines in and the stop lines out. Putting stops ahead in the pavement on 39, and rounding out the corners that are constantly run over by school buses and trucks, and making the radius a little bit better.
you know, Jerry, with the moving the edge lines, I want to be very clear. We installed exactly what the Cape Cod Commission recommended. And that, you know, Steve Tupper, along with Mass DOT, involved with that whole thing, major presentation. The markings we put down was exactly what was originally suggested. We didn't deviate. We took the engineer's suggestion. And now to want them be moved in, yes, we can do it, but I think the intersection's been working, quite frankly. I don't see a need for that. You know, maybe somebody else wants to chime in, but that's why that hasn't been done, Jerry, is we did exactly what was recommended out there. We did move the stop bars. We went out there and measured all of those and rearranged the 2 stop bars on Pleasant Bay. But the median, we constructed what was suggested.
Just a comment, Link, I use that road frequently, at least twice a week. And it seems to be working very well. Every time I've gone down there, it seems to be working very well.
Thank you.
I may not be going there at rush hour or whenever the school buses come, but just generally speaking, I think it's working.
Well, I do too. And I think the effect, and Griff might be able to chime in, if we narrow the median, that makes people feel like they have more space. And I think when people feel like they have more space, speed naturally increases. So by squeezing it out towards the edge line, I think has the intended consequence of slowing down. We can't change the speed limit. We've got advisory signs in both directions. The 30 miles an hour, dangerous intersection, 30 miles an hour posted. You know, I think we've done just about everything but solve the drainage problem.
Well, there's a printout that Linda sent along, and you say
I see
that
it.
done
I
what
got
they're
it.
suggesting, but it says stop ahead pavement markings. We haven't done that. And then it says move edge lines in, narrow painted, and so, you know, narrow the painted medium. You say you followed their directions, but they've updated their directions. So I don't know if we need to review this again, but somehow I'd like to take
hear
one of,
you know, Jerry,
take one of these
as
put it to sleep.
an engineer, I know he's not a traffic engineer, but as an engineer, I'd like to maybe hear what his opinion, if you have one, Griff, might be.
I don't know that I've seen the sketch that's being referred to. Might be in my email here.
Yeah, Steve Tupper provided that, and you know, we gave the contractor.
Yeah, I mean, just operationally, I mean, I think I drive that quite often, and I kept on using what we were proposing in front of the library, that this intersection as a comparison, because it's changed the way that I drive through there. Not that I'm a good or bad driver, but you know, I certainly do slow down as I come through there, and you know, I think Link does make I have to look at what was I guess, the alternative proposal. But I think Link does make a good point where if you are narrowing it, if you're narrowing the painted island in the middle, then I think you're creating more of a straight shot, where with the larger painted island, you're kind of pushed out to the edges more, which I think should help with speeds a little bit. And I think that's similar to, the new paint in front of the library, where you're coming from the east, you're pushed over towards Town Hall, which it slows me down. I mean, I know it's just paint, but we're taught to drive within the lines. So I think, I think what has been done there is an improvement. Are there other ways to improve it? Maybe, but I'd have to look at them a little more closely.
Well,
But
when
I
you
think by narrowing it and creating a straighter shot, then that could have a negative effect.
When they say they're narrowing up the painted medium, they're also moving the fog lines in and keeping the lane width, the same width. So
Understood.
And you're moving in doing so, you're able to move the stop bars out as one of the parts of that is that you bring the people closer to the road so they have a better vision on the traffic on either. So that's one of the reasons for narrowing the island is to move stop bars.
I guess I do agree with the benefit of being able to bring those stop bars in, but I think we just need to weigh it against the, is the sight lines, by moving the stop bars in a couple feet, does that really improve the sight lines dramatically? If it does, then maybe that is the better solution, because maybe it's less. The problem is less of the through traffic and it's more of the crossing traffic, coming through those stop signs. I also think there's a failure for some people to just stop altogether. And I don't know that moving those stop bars would do much for that. But if those stop bars being moved a couple feet in does increase the sight lines dramatically, then there could be some benefit.
I have a question. Link, in terms of all these stop signs that are all over town, stop, yield, etc., does the DPW regularly trim back any bushes that might be obscuring, say, a stop sign to make sure that it's visible?
We try to. I mean, ongoing brushing and line of sight is just an ongoing thing. If you have a specific location, please let us know. Call the office, it'll get in the queue. Yeah, that's always ongoing, but it's usually complaint driven unless we notice it ourselves.
Yep.
Aaron, do you have any comment on, like, as far as moving those in? I'm perfectly willing to do whatever. If this group said, yeah, we think that work should be done, I'm perfectly willing to do it. I just personally felt like, we did what was supposed to, and I think it slows the traffic down. And I think the accidents have definitely decreased, the severity of the accidents. Do you have any thoughts on it, Aaron?
I will say you're correct. The severity of the accidents have certainly dropped off. We're never going to eliminate them completely. And everything that you have done has made a tremendous difference from, the eye test. Now, like I said, I'm not a traffic engineer either, but certainly the eye test that says that things are dramatically better there. And we do still have the occasional one. We'll move in the stop bars. Maybe it'll help. A lot of these accidents are exactly, they're not yielding the right of way to cars. And we've had some that say, we thought it was a four-way stop. They thought the car was going. No, that's a very common one. It happens on Lowell County Road too. So I don't know. I would say what has been done has been a dramatic change. We still do get them on occasion, but there's a lot of traffic through that intersection. And while we lack significant rush hours and things like that in the summertime, the traffic from the Wauquasit is crazy. And a lot of those people, are in a rush to get somewhere. I hate to generalize like that, but the traffic coming from the Wauquasit is often the causation of these accidents, because you're just increasing your odds, So it's a big difference. The speeds are down and the severity is down. So I think it's great. from the beginning, I always said go for the low hanging fruit, which your guys went out and did, and see if we can make improvements from there. And I think it's a lot better.
Yeah, so for Clem, who doesn't know, I say we went out and with the commission, with Mass DOT, they did intersection safety audit, and then they came up with a list of recommendations. We did everything we could at the time, short of building a roundabout, including probably took a dozen trees down, moved people's fences, had mitigation to do so. We really increased the line of sight. Only thing that's left that I've got on that hasn't done is the 4 utility poles looking towards East Howard. Are on Verizon's list to be moved. I don't know where that stands. We requested it. I met with them in the field, and that would give a better line of sight, because right now you pull up coming from Quasit, heading towards the Mid-Cape, you pick up and you either look behind the line of poles or in front of the line of poles. But there is good vision up to the corner. But moving the poles back would also have a positive effect.
Well, that segues us very nicely into when are they going to get that poll work done?
They're out there today, Madam Chair.
Oh, I'll believe it when I see it.
They're there today. I have good authority.
I saw it with my own eyes.
That
Yeah,
they were
they're
out
really
there working today.
Eversource is there. I don't see Verizon yet, but nonetheless, it's moving.
Slowly at
One
best.
utility at a time.
Yep. So now
So
Eversource is
today is
moving theirs.
Eversource.
Yeah, Eversource is moving theirs, and we got to get Verizon, Comcast, and then we got to get Verizon to take the pole out. So there's movement. It's at a snail's pace, but there is movement.
The neighborhood will be very happy because they have long wanted that done, and the whole ability to get those wires moved, close the slipper lane, and just make that a better intersection, less dangerous. Because that's an intersection I go through all the time, multiple times a week. And I know that how I feel like I'm always taking my life in my hands between all of the stuff coming between Miles and Pleasant comes to and then you've got the people who whip around through the slipper lane. Very good. Thank you, Link. I'm glad that's happening.
You will, while I was out there visiting on site with the former administrator to take a look at it, while we were there, we witnessed 2 near accidents. Now, because the speed's low, there's not a lot of accidents, but there were 2 people meeting at the slipper lane head on twice while we were out there evaluating the situation. We did take a big giant tree in front of the house on Pleasant, on Miles. I'm sorry. Well, Pleasant Miles, whatever that.
Yeah, that little nudge.
Right where the slipper lane is. We took one old growth tree that wasn't all that healthy, and then across the street we significantly cut back one. And Eversource actually came out and cut the stuff up with the DPW removing the logs. So we work cooperatively with the utility to make that happen at no cost to the town.
And the neighbors, again, every so often I see neighbors when they're walking their dogs and they ask me, when is this going to happen? They will be thrilled to see that there was something moving because it is a dangerous area. All right. Yes.
Linda, one step back just on the Route 39 thing. I think one thing that we could do just to address, Jerry's concern, to make sure we have done everything that makes sense is, now that a number of these, improvements have been made, I would suggest that we bring Steve Tupper back and say, and have him look at, Steve, do you, because he is a traffic engineer, which all of us are not. And, I think that, just to make sure we've done everything that we can, we could get him out and meet him in the field out there and say, Steve, if we move these stop lines in, do you think that'll make knowing the severity of the accidents, where most of the accidents come from, do you think that would make an improvement? And because I think we would want to rely on his expertise, and he's has always been willing to help out, and he lives right down the street, Brewster.
Thank you. That's a good idea. We'll put that on the list.
If you'd like, Linda, if you'd like, I'll reach out to Steve and try to put that in the works.
That sounds great.
That gives us, what, a 3-year look back after the improvements, Link, or a 2-year?
I don't know, but I know that he does a pretty thorough job at pulling the PD records. And giving us a pretty complete picture. He's a very well-prepared man.
Okay. Griffin, sidewalk, Harwich Port to the harbor. What's the status of that little baby?
That's Link and I's baby. We're under contract with VHB to do 25% design. There's potentially some other movement behind the inner political workings of Beacon Hill that may. So we I guess going back a little bit. We were approved by the project review committee, Mass DOT project review committee, and January 28th, I believe, for that project to move forward as a TIP project, transportation improvement project, in which, and with the TIP project, most of us are aware, the town pays for the design and Mass DOT pays for construction, which makes a lot of sense on a Mass DOT owned street.
And Griff, I've never seen just a sidewalk on the tip.
Right. And, because this has been something that's been talked about for a number of years. And for the first, several years, we were told you have to do full complete streets corridor, cross section, which we all said, okay, it's dead. It's dead because people are not going to give up their land to have 5-foot bike lanes. It just doesn't make sense, especially as you're coming into Harwich Port, where you'd never be able to do that. So apparently there had been a new, and these things get released, yearly or whatever. There was a new engineering directive that provided for some exemptions, which would basically apply to this project, where we could get away with, and we're not just getting away with, but get away with just doing a sidewalk and not having to do all the other improvements. Which, I think just adding a sidewalk is a major improvement, even if you can't get bike lanes in there. And I've said this in the past. Harwich PD is not in the business of writing tickets for kids riding on the sidewalk. It's not what we're doing. I know you're not supposed to, but at least it provides an avenue that's safer than what's out there today. And we really pushed this with DOT. Steve Tupper and the Cape Cod Commission staff was a huge help in providing the forms. We had to do identification and notification forms for the project. They really spearheaded that for us and are really behind the project. So we got the PRC approval at the end of January, which allowed us to get voted onto the TIP. And the Joint Transportation Committee is the crew that usually recommends what goes on the TIP, when and where, for the MPO to approve. And luckily this is a smaller project, and the Joint Transportation Committee and Cape Cod Commission have been talking about $1 million minus projects, because there's oftentimes the region gets 10 or 11 million dollars, and sometimes we use 9 of it and the rest of it just goes bye-bye. So this is one of those smaller projects that we've folks on the Cape have struggled to put together, but because of that we were able to get voted on to the 2025 TIP, which basically jumped us a couple years. Right now the 2025 was already set, but there was a little bit of leeway there for us for this project to fit in within the funding constraints. So that's a real positive. I know 2025 seems a long way off, but it's a 5-year cycle, and that's the way DOT works. So we are very happy that we were able to do that. I don't know that we could have moved it up any sooner with the review processes that have to happen through Mass DOT. However, there are some, as I mentioned, workings at Beacon Hill that may allow the project to advance faster and not necessarily take the full Mass DOT review track, so to speak. Link, please add on to whatever I may have missed.
No, I think you were pretty thorough. Right now, the ball is in VHB, the consultants court, in that the Cape Cod Commission asked that the walk be extended to Julian Road. It makes sense from my perspective. It only makes sense if it doesn't slow the project down. we know we had Paul Manning, a part-time resident and business owner in town, make a $250,000 donation to help the town with the engineering costs on this. And he asked for an update yesterday. I told him just that, and he was like, "Yeah, that sounds good to Julian, as long as it doesn't slow the project down," which I fully agree with. So we're waiting for some data back from VHB before that decision place. And that is, how much is survey going to cost? How much more engineering? Does it change the scope enough that the commission needs to revote it? Those types of questions need to be answered, and that would be a staff meeting to do so. But we are waiting on VHB. Once we get those answers, I think it's full steam ahead. And there's a distinct possibility. There's a lot of wrangling at Beacon Hill. Mr. Manning has his own lobbying firm that's behind him, and they have the ear of the governor and the lieutenant governor. They both have expressed that they support the project. And it's been my experience that if the governor said he wanted this done, Mass DOT would take ownership and have it done so fast it'd make our head spin. So that's what we kind of have our fingers crossed will happen. But absent that, then we need to follow the tip process.
When do you think, Link, that this review of how long it was, designed, how long it would take, what does it change? Does it increase the cost? Does it slow it down? When do you think you might see some info on that?
Probably a few weeks. I'm thinking a few weeks. I just talked to Steve Rhodes, the VHB engineer that designed Route 137 for us and is currently working on our West Howard tip project. He said, the ball's in my court. I'll get you something in a week.
That sounds great.
Estimates on his part. Then we need to circle back with Steve Tupper at the commission, and he had his own portion of research to do. Meaning, do we have to take this back to the tip committee? Does it change the scope enough, or is it just a small addition? Those types of things. And we will reconvene a meeting at the staff level. Hopefully answer that. Hopefully those answers could be yes, 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 and we move forward.
Good. Sounds great.
And I guess one of the things which I mentioned in the beginning, absent of that, we do have VHB under contract for the 25% design as it stands now. So
Yep.
we would just be amending that if we need to. I think my optimistic thought is it probably won't slow things down. And Link and I were on the exact same page about what we were both hesitant about extending it not because we didn't think it was the right thing to do, but we didn't want to slow down the process, the progress that we had made recently.
And here's the rub where believe it or not, Linda, if this was a town road 6 years ago, I could have built this thing for about $250,000. Right now we're in the three plus range for engineering to get it through fruition. And the cost estimate from DOT is what, 1.1, and that doesn't even get to Julian Road. That was just the existing project. So if one of Julian raises this to a point that it no longer fits in 25, or it's going to require more the project review committee or anything at MassDOT, I think we have to walk away from the suggestion of extending it.
Well, we'll trust you guys to make a good decision, because that's right. Get 80% done, and then we can work on the 20. But it's just get that part done is probably becomes more important.
That extension, good point. That extension could be a second phase of this, and it would be a pretty easy second phase. And I'm hoping that this is an impetus to run the sidewalk all the way to the Chatham line. Honestly, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
No.
Is this sidewalk going to be on north side or the south side of 28? Do we have any idea what they're thinking?
Yeah, south side.
Yep.
South side only.
Mm-hmm.
That was
VHB had reviewed that a couple times to figure out what was the least impactful, and the south side is the least impactful in terms of property impacts and whatnot.
Yeah, and
Great.
what sold Mass DOT was we got questioned. Me and Griff got questioned immensely. They wanted sidewalks on both sides. I sent Google Earth Street View shots to their chief engineer saying, look at the path that's worn in from all the foot traffic. believe it or not, that's what sold them on alleviating sidewalks on both sides. So, it's on the south side and we think it's a good project. And this is the first time I've ever seen them acquiesce for a sidewalk only project in this program.
Good.
Positive.
Okay, next, Griffin.
Yes. I just, so on Freeman Road, or Freeman, I always mix them up. Freeman Street, Snowing Road, Route 28, right in the same neck of the woods.
Yes.
We have a surveyor under contract to do the stakeout. I completed a letter to the adjacent landowners, where we will be staking the property, which is being sent out. I think it was sent out yesterday or today. We basically went through, got the abutters list, or for all the addresses, and they're sending a letter just to let them know that we're going to be out there staking, and leave them alone for the most part because you don't own the property, in nicer words. But basically, giving them a heads up, there will be a survey crew out there staking the property line. The survey crew we wanted to give the residents a little time to ask questions. So we have the surveyor scheduled to be out there on the week of the 21st. And
Did the letter state why the surveyors are gonna be there?
Yeah, the letter stated, I don't have it committed to memory. I sent it to you this morning, but I didn't look at it again. Hold on.
Is it necessary to tell them why we're surveying?
My thought is if they see the surveyors, they say, well, why are they there? If we explain to them that we have a problematic intersection and that we're trying to reduce the problems or the accidents, and increase the line of sight, then they can understand that and hopefully anticipate that if there is a problem and their bushes are within the layout of the road, that they're going to be thinking, okay, I need to start.
They're willing to work with us, hopefully.
I think it begs the question. You put the stakes out there, it begs the question, why?
So the letter, as recommended by the Town of Harwich Board of Selectmen and the Traffic Safety Committee, the town has hired a land surveying firm, A+ Construction Services Corporation, to perform property line staking along Route 28, Freeman Street, and Snowing Road. The purpose of this property line staking is to identify the limits of Route 28, a Mass DOT-owned roadway, so that vegetation can be trimmed or moved to improve sightlines at the intersection of 28, Freeman Street, and Snowing Road. This intersection has seen a number of accidents over the past few years, and the hope is that improved sightlines will help reduce accidents moving forward. Please feel free to contact the administration department with any questions or concerns.
Great. That was going to be my next question, which was going to be, you're leaving in a few days and we're going to miss you.
Same here.
But who would they contact? So there is a telephone number to contact town administration if they have any issues.
Yep, and Megan's up to speed with everything that's going on too.
Okay, so
Trying not to
it'll
leave
be Megan. Great.
Yeah, my experience, and Link will probably agree, is that most people don't understand the right of way and where their property is, and they think they own to the road. And I was speaking to somebody who was in Brewster who thinks they own to the road, and trying to explain to them the whole debacle on Millstone Road, which I think went through 124 and 137 and on and on. So it's, the education could be helpful. Thank you.
And just so everyone knows, with this, we're not just putting, the 4-foot stakes in there. They're actually putting in iron pipes that are going to be flush with the ground. And the reason why I asked for that was so that we could locate them in the future. Because we can just take a metal detector out there. If you put the tall stakes up, it'll last a day before someone rips it down. So that way we can take a metal detector in the future, go out there and locate it. I'm also coordinating with the water department. The water department has a GPS unit, which, gets things pretty close within a couple inches, which is good enough for what we're doing here. So what I'll have them do, I've been coordinating with Dan Pelletier And once the stakes are put in the ground, he will go out there and locate them such that he could replicate them in the future. So that way we don't have to go out and hire a surveying firm again, because we would just be re-putting in the points that the survey firm had already done for us.
Okay.
Great thought. That's a good idea, because this question will come up 10 years from now, and then you're resurveying. So if there's this bit where you can just find them that's great.
So we're trying to put on the belt and suspenders.
Yep.
Yeah. So if somebody sees the surveying going on, if they can share that the surveying has been done, or if Megan can do it when she gets notification it's done, so that we can visualize it ourselves if we wish, that would be great. Thanks.
And I think it would be something that we would want to walk with the police department as well, just so they can see where, and we could all look at the sight lines,
That would be good. Maybe we can do that kind of a walk to see where the sight lines actually are and what kind of fuss we're in for in terms of bushes, fences, trees, etc.
And just one other thing to note, this came through a donation from the Witchmere Harbor Beach Club. They're very on board with trying to make this safer. So I had a very good meeting with Mike Charlotte, and they donated the entire amount for this work.
Wow.
So I think that they will be a good partner. And they have future plans, which some of their future plans would probably require traffic studies of this intersection and other intersections, quite honestly. But they want to push this the right direction.
It is good that the town has fostered so many good relationships with the business community and with the residents, because here we are, just 2 items, and are being funded by public contributions, business contributions, so that the work can move forward. But it's just the community involvement that has been generated over the past many years is really, all of our department heads that work so hard at that, you link the police department, Aaron, just making sure and keeping those connections alive, so we don't have that adversarial, but we have that working together attitude. It's really great to see. You guys, should get a lot of kudos for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. You make a good point.
Yes.
Okay, under new business. Jerry Beltis and I met with our town administrator just to bring Joe up to speed on what the Traffic Safety Committee does. We did that in February, and we told him that we report to him, and he goes, "You do?" And so, with everything else he's going on, this was a nit that he missed. So he was pretty excited about that. And so therefore, one of the ways we've been trying to get the road Hope and Go, intersection of 39 and Old Chatham, that Old Chatham Road area, get it on a capital plan to get some changes done there. And he said if the committee would vote that we wanted it on the capital plan, that then it would be, since the capital plan belongs to the town administrator and we report to him, that he would then start making this happen. So we were pretty excited about that.
So moved.
Done.
Who is that?
Second.
I think that was Clem.
Yeah, Clem, you can't vote, but I understand. So
Yeah.
I think that if we're good with that, I can draft a letter to him that says Traffic Safety Committee, blah, blah, blah. And we'd like this on the capital plan to get the good old Hope and Go to see if something was done. Because I think Jerry Beltis sent around the pictures of the accident that just happened. And that's a really good example of why that road, that intersection, needs something to happen.
And I looked at this a little bit just because I know that the previous engineer and surveyor had done some work out there, and
Yes.
reviewed the plans, and it was I think what they had developed, it was probably good enough for a schematic design, but to really move forward, we need a stamped and signed surveyor, of record, to help with easements or takings or whatever might need to be done. So the capital plan makes a whole lot of sense.
And at the time, I believe that Caffarelli and I think it was Chris Clark, somebody had some conversations with the landowner there, and there was an indication, was that you, Lincoln, that
Yeah,
there was
that
an
was me.
indication that they were okay with us taking a little bit, some level of easement or something to square off that corner. So if that still exists, all of that work has to be done as well, the formality of it.
Well, it starts, as Griff said, with a detailed survey and some engineering, because to do a taking, you need to have the engineered plans that get recorded at the
Yeah.
registry of deeds.
Right.
This would have to be a taking, but she seems amenable to that. Initially, she said to me, yeah, we could donate it. We really want to see that intersection straightened out. Then she came back and said, well, if I'm giving my property up, I said, absolutely. In this instance, I think it's appropriate. Do the taking, have an appraisal done, pay the woman whatever we need to straighten out the alignment at that intersection.
And just get it done, because it's such a bad intersection. Jerry,
There's a couple of holes here that we had a meeting with Chris Clark and Bob Caffarelli and Linda Greenhalgh. Is it Linda? Past planning chairperson?
Charlene.
Charlene.
thank you. Yes. Piped in and offered the suggestion of a permanent easement rather than a land taking. It gives the property owner use of the acreage if she does any improvements or they do any improvements, and they don't lose any of their property rights other than the use of that square footage. So I'd like to see if we could draft a letter and ask town administrator to go ahead with engineering to see if there's any funds there to do the engineering, and then we can, I don't know if it would be worth going to the previous engineer to see if he'd work as a consultant and do the work, seeing as he's already done some of it. Or if we just hire somebody that's whoever the town uses.
I think that's in the purview of the town administrator to make that kind of a decision. But I think that what we were asked to do as the committee is ask for the initial step to have it put on the capital plan, which once it's on the capital plan, starts the rest of the design survey. I think they will leaving it open to whether it's a taking or it's an easement, etc. I think those are all things that will come out of how much do we actually need of the land in order to have an adequate corridor. But I think what we're asked to do was just get the thing on the capital plan so it's got a placeholder with at least some dollars attached so we can start the process. But I think some of those other issues, Jerry, will come out of once you start the plan, the engineering, the blah, blah, blah. Some of these things will start getting more fleshier.
Yeah, it's as I got into learning about what's involved, similar to the sidewalk project from the port to the harbor and maybe beyond. This is a three-part project where we have to do the engineering, then we have to do the legal, and we have to do the construction. So it's not go out there with a shovel. It's always more complicated.
Linda, I suspect, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I suspect I met with Steve Rhodes out there once upon a time. I don't recall if he gave me something in writing, but let's say this was 3 or 4 years ago.
Who is Steve Rhodes?
He's the VHB engineer that we use.
Okay.
And I think he said it was about $30,000 at the time. Off the top of my head, for survey and engineering, I'm going to guess it's probably a $50,000 project from an engineering standpoint. That sound about right to you, Griff? I hate in today's environment to throw out numbers.
Yeah, no, that I mean, it sounds like it's a lot, but it's
well, once you
significant
start
deal that we're
doing
looking to do
survey-
there, and we want to do it right once.
Right. So it's not, if we do it, we need an engineering firm that specializes in traffic management. And that, in my opinion, we're in pretty good hands with VHB.
And I think this is another one where we could, in conjunction with VHB, it's something that Steve Tupper could probably look at as well and provide some suggestions.
Oh, good point.
Well, the neighbors in that area
Okay,
will
I'd
be
like to
very
make a
happy to see
motion that we-
something. Go ahead.
send a letter to administration requesting this move forward on capital outlay, I guess is,
capital plan. Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Great. We're moving right down this agenda. Lovers Lane, Chatham Road, they planted those bushes again, Link.
Lincoln,
Can
we
we go-
had problem with Lovers Lane and Chatham Road, and you and your crew or other people went out there and trimmed bushes. And as you're approaching Chatham Road from 39, looking west or to the right, there's the property owner had placed some bushes, some evergreen type thing along the edge of the road after we cleared it. I mentioned this to you and Chris Dickinson and other people, and at the time they were 1 foot tall seedlings, and now they're grown to 3 and 4 feet tall, and it's definitely, in my opinion, beginning to become a line of sight issue as they get bigger and older. And I'd like us to ask police or you to go out there and tell the property owners to move the bushes back, get them off the town right away. Again, this is where the residents think they own to the edge of the road and probably don't. And bring them back onto their own land, or we're gonna go down there and remove them. Is that possibility getting done?
Yeah, we can mow anything over. We've,
I can drive the
I
link.
think
I
if
can
Aaron
drive
goes out
over
and
it.
maybe ask them, that would, be a little, usually when we have issues like this, we usually try to knock on the door first, and then we go to either Aaron or Mark Holmes from the Traffic Safety Division, and they take a swipe at it. And we've been pretty successful collectively. So I don't know, why don't you and I talk about it? I don't know the people.
Okay.
You know the homeowner?
I don't.
No, I don't either. So let's say, Jared, one of us will go make contact and ask them politely, and if they don't, we'll say we'll mow them over.
Yeah, it's, you did a great amount of work out there to improve it.
We did.
And then these people blindly or innocently take away our efforts. And again, they may or may not know.
Yeah, because I know I take that road too, and I've been watching those bushes grow, and they are going to get to the point where they're going to be problematic. I think people just don't understand. You do something on your property, and you don't think about how it looks a half a block down. We have a tree in front of our house that we periodically clip the branches back because one of our neighbors wants to make sure she has a clean line of sight down 28 getting out of her driveway. So every so often she tells us, you got to clip that tree back again. Go out there and clip it back.
Yeah, they're looking at it from their living room. It looks good from there.
Yeah, yeah. You don't think to look on all sides.
No, good point.
I think we are at the next one was 6D, which was the possibility of creating a line of sight, or let's say updating line of sight and bush issues. We've been pretty successful at policies and procedures. We've passed 2 through the Board of Selectmen, but I know that I have areas, my husband and I walk, and there are areas where, one is on Miles and 28, where the bushes grow out into the street, which means, and it's a narrow, one car passing on either side. So the cars move to the center of the road because they don't want to get scratched. And therefore now you have potential for problems. And it's a problem for the walkers because these bushes, trees, ground, we complain in this town about the sidewalks are too narrow. But if you scuff at the ground cover, you can see there's 8 inches of ground cover. and grass that has grown over the sidewalk. So is the sidewalk too narrow? Yes, it is. But if all that was cleaned back, bushes trimmed, I know I'm not that tall, so if a tree branch is hitting my head, it should be clipped. You know, we're not talking
You know,
Godzilla here.
Linda, let me be the first to say that, you know, the policy, the traffic calming policy that you were central at getting passed has worked out tremendously well. It really
Oh,
has,
good.
because I was actually dealing with Aram on a resident today. We were talking on the same thing. People, you know, say somebody's speeding. Well, this clarifies the issues and puts a process out in front of people that we can then refer them to. Rather than us trying to solve their problems, it puts the onus on the property owner to do something. And I have to say that it has worked out very, very well, has exceeded my expectations, and I referred to it at least once a month. And it has done. So I would be in favor of taking what we have, looking at it, analyzing it, condensing it down to a couple of pages. I think would be an excellent tool for at least this department.
I think it would be too, because as you talked about, you're going to, in the prior item, you're going to talk to the homeowner, see if you can get them to do it. There is a point where bushes have to be clipped back for traffic safety and
Yep.
pedestrian safety, and that's kind of our mission here. So I think one of the things with the policy is, who does the person call and who's the throat to choke on trying to get something done? Because right now they may call this person or that person, but having a specific department, here's the form, here's what you do, and then it gets acted upon. I think that can only serve to enhance all of these issues.
Completely agree. You know, particularly if we could whittle it down to a page that simply says, when we make contact, Aaron makes contact with a resident, I make contact with them. Listen, we need to cut this. Here's why. You know, we're requesting you to take care of these. Here's why. If you don't, then policy clearly outlines the steps the town can then take. I think.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in here if I can, because I'm gonna be leaving for my appointment. But one of the things is, in the policy, is that you also get feedback. So if somebody makes a comment or complaint, that there's a follow through. So we hear what happened, similar to Chatham Road and the bushes on the edge of the road. Other than going out and visiting and see what the results are, that, you know, some sort of a notification is sent out. With that, I'm going to be leaving, and thank you all for your help while I was chairperson, and I greatly appreciate your efforts. Griffin, good luck in your new endeavor. I wish you were staying, but I understand life moves
I
on.
second that.
It is bittersweet because I do like it here, but it's a good opportunity.
Oh, good.
So, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
Mr. Chair.
See you later.
Bye, Jared.
Sure.
I do.
Hey,
So
Jerry.
Link, you will pull together whatever we have in our bylaws, each of our bylaws, and then we can see if we can just, as you say, put it down into a couple, 3 pages. Because I know sometimes I read the bylaws, they're so technical that the average homeowner isn't going to read all that. But if they know that this, and this, it's going to make it much easier to have those conversations and maybe get some bushes cut back.
I agree. The simpler we can keep it, the better. And we do have pretty good success if we just stop and say, hey, can you cut these back? Most people respond right away. But simple is better. Instead of talking about site triangles and 30 inches from the ground, like, there's got to be a better way to, you know, and I guess I don't want to overcomplicate it, but we definitely need something if you don't do it and get it to this standard. Because a lot of people will trim it back, and you take a route to the intersection and you can get a feel for it. Yep, that looks great. You know, other intersections, it's going to look different. So standard form, but also a simple one, I'm in favor for. It's just so much easier on our end when you go to somebody You know, I mean, most people realize the problem intersections. They realize they need to do something.
Absolutely. I mean, there are some others that it's going to mean when that fence is replaced, it's got to go back 2 feet.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
agree.
there are some places where bushes are just planted too close to the edge of the property. Then as they grow, they spread.
Yep.
You know, so maybe some of this review could be, you can't, you know, once you have to locate the edge of the, you know, the right of way and think about maybe you should plant your bushes 2 feet in to allow for, I'm saying using 2 feet, I don't know what the answer is, but so that you allow for spread. Because that's
Well,
really where a
it's-
lot of this comes from.
So
Glenn?
yes, we need to identify the right of way and that the town has every right to take anything within the right of way. However, it's not just limited to town property at intersections. If, you know, if the engineer applying MUTCD to it, which is which is triangle and line of sight stuff, finds that it's on private property, the town still has the right to take it. But we, you know, the first option's always, we knock on the door, and I agree with Aaron that if we had, particularly Linda, if we just had a single page that outlined the steps, here you go, here's the reason why we're asking, please take care of this. If you don't, the town will. I mean, essentially, that's what it needs to say in a page.
Yep.
We did anything more than a page. Come on.
And really, this policy or form is acting as the mechanism for how we implement the zoning. Without having people have to go through zoning, it's an easy,
Right.
you know.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
And I think it will stop the discussions of, I can do this, no, you can't. Well, I heard you can do this. I think it really starts corralling that and will just enhance safety for all of us. Clem, you had a comment.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. I just wondered, is this policy directed, Griffin, as a town-wide mechanism? I mean, you're looking at it holistically for the entire town.
Yes. No, I think that would be the intent of it.
Yeah.
We can't
Great.
differentiate, you know, one way or the other.
And if I could segue back to a link regarding Route 39, and Aaron, you're a quick reminder. I'm 2 doors down, and regarding Route 39 from the old middle school going down to Shaw's Market, I just wondered, Link, is there anything on the drawing board as far as a comprehensive study looking at, for example, you've got the new mini golf going in across from Shaw's, and as you move up toward my intersection at South, and I hate to make it specific just because I happen to live here, but I see just some tremendous issues with fire and fire safety and accessing Route 39. Jerry, because you mentioned it before, the speed limits do not make any sense to me. The traffic is moving so fast. For example, there's a crosswalk, as you know, Link, you know, right in front of my house, and the changing patterns of people buying homes and the younger people walking by, etc. I just think it's almost impossible for anybody to stop safely. I think the whole zone, including the school area, just you know, is something that might be looked at. I don't know how you feel, because it's, you know, I know it's a big enchilada, but and there are a lot of nuances, you know, to what I just brought up. But I don't have statistics linked, so I mean, I'm shooting from the hip. Sorry, but I would regard this intersection as very problematic. Not just because recently we've had a couple more accidents, but it's a tough one. So any thoughts from other people? Sorry to interject, but I thought it fit in with that topic, Linda.
Yep, absolutely.
So the only thing on the plate, on the horizon, that I'm aware of is the Safe Routes to School is replacing the sidewalks from on South, from Sisson to Main Street, up south in the other direction to Main Street and then down Main Street. That triangle kind of around the school is getting new sidewalks, and that's already in the works. As far as
So, yeah,
intersection, I'm unaware of anything going on. The mini golf was permitted through planning. You know, if they wanted anything further, that was the time to do it. And I'm unaware that they asked for any mitigation for that.
so just on the safe routes to school, the initial proposal included that entire triangle, but we
It
were
did, yeah.
limited to $1 million. And so I think that the southern half of that triangle, which probably gets closer to your house, Clem, is now taken off the table. So basically the safe routes to school will go from the elementary school on South Street up to Main Street and connect in over at the Sisson Road intersection. And then also from the cultural center or old middle school up to Main Street as well. We had wanted to include that entire triangle, but it just didn't fit within the $1 million of funding. And that's scheduled to be constructed in 2024.
Link, what about the, because again, I don't want to sound patronizing, but I think that Harwich Center is so terrific. What about the demarcation as far as, painting the lines and access to, that intersection? And Aaron, probably you could respond, I think more directly. The majority of accidents that I see are people cutting these corners. So severe that I've seen, I could breathe on the paint of the car as they're turning from Sisson, to go south on South Street. It's amazing. It's a wonder there haven't been more.
Yeah, we do have a number. It's surprisingly, I'm glad you mentioned it, but we do seem to have a fair number of accidents there for some reason, and there are a lot of cars that kind of cut that corner. I'd have to look to get the numbers on causation and how many, but we do seem to have a fair number of accidents there for whatever reason. I don't know, but I could go back and research and see. But that is, I don't know what the issue is there, but we are getting more and more there for some reason.
And that intersection is skewed a little bit, right? I think that
Yes.
might be part of
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is, the line of sight is wide open, Griff. It's just that the alignment is less than desirable. But the line of sight's wide open. If this committee thinks it appropriate, we could ask Steve Tupper to take a look at that, put it on, maybe do an audit of that. I wasn't aware that this was a problematic intersection.
I'm glad Clem mentioned it, because it is one of those that when you have an accident there and you're like, that's right, we just had another one, and then you move on to the next one, and it kind of, if that's possible, I think if Steve could put it on I was going to ask if that was a possibility. I think that's a good idea. Just maybe there's some low hanging fruit like at Pleasant Bay, can be worked on to make it better, but I think that's a good idea.
I think, again, I feel like a conflict of interest. I don't want to I realize there's a bazillion intersections throughout this town, but the unique character of the intersection, I think, is that again, and not to patronize the public safety officers, but boy, when those response calls go out, Aaron, I'm just amazed that there aren't more events where, I know you guys look both ways, but boy, that's tough going through that intersection. And whether it's fire equipment or, again, officers on response call, it's a challenge.
I'm going to step in here and say that my spouse and I walk that area. We wave to Clem periodically, and we're always trying to cross in that crosswalk, and the number of people who don't stop in that crosswalk. And a lot of what we talk about is not going to be solved by signs. It's not going to be solved by blinking lights and lines in the road, because it's the behavior of the driver. We'll be standing in that crosswalk like you're supposed to be. People will be way down the road. They know we're standing there, and they still whip right through. I don't know. That's the part I don't know how to fix, other than the police department just starts be standing right there whip somebody over and give them a pretty hefty ticket, which then goes on their insurance, and maybe it's the financial penalty that wakes some people up. But I mean, that's one of the things that as we use crosswalks, there people are just not paying attention to their surroundings and thinking about, and they're just whipping around these corners. Yes, I agree. Some of these intersections are problematic, and it's the driver behavior that is really more of an issue than whether or not the corner is squared off or something.
Yeah.
Because they know
Well,
it's not squared off, so they can whip around.
That
Every
crosswalk-
one of these intersections that we've discussed today started with having the commission do an assessment. So I think maybe that would be an appropriate avenue to have them put it on their agenda to do an intersection safety audit of this intersection for us.
I agree. I think, from a perfect engineering world, which is no such thing, would be to, realign the crossing such that it's at a 90, but you've got houses on either side. There's a lot going on right there. So I think, using the expertise of the commission and Steve Tupper would be valuable. And maybe there isn't much that we can do, but at least we have the appropriate
tried.
professional looking at it to
Yep.
provide some ideas.
It also gives the opinion, because it came from the traffic engineer and the commission, it gives it almost more validity. The old saying, you're never a preacher in your own village.
Yeah.
It's
Gives it more
if we
gravitas.
say it, yeah, just that. So sometimes that really just adds to it. And they are the Cape Cod Commission, everything that I've seen, stuff that comes out of them, particularly this traffic stuff, has always been pretty top notch.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, do we have anything else, any other business to come before this committee?
Sorry, Linda, could I ask one question of Griff? Griff, Cape wide, because you referenced a comment relative to that sidewalk project. Is there a comprehensive plan for, and this will make poor Link cringe, I bet, but a number of towns have engaged in creating bicycle lanes. Do we have a comprehensive plan that is kind of on paper as far as that's concerned? I just wondered. I mean, I know we have the bike path, et cetera, but getting there increasingly, I think, becomes problematic for a lot of people, especially the visitors that I see. And sorry, but it happens to be this South Street conduit, that actually leads to the bike path, and a lot of people use it now. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's a really good comment. And I had brought this up with the board more in an effort to try and get something on Route 28. But complete streets, a lot of towns have adopted complete streets policies, and basically when you it's a process. So when I was pushing for it, I was trying to get something on Route 28, and come to find out that you couldn't use complete streets on a state highway, although it had been used on a state highway elsewhere in the state, but that's different. So with complete streets, the first step is you create a policy, and the Cape Cod Commission, bring up Steve Tupper's name again, has been very helpful with local towns. When complete streets first came out, probably like 6, 7, 8 years ago, there was a lot of apprehension for Cape towns to adopt it because, if you look at all the complete streets manuals, it shows like, a city system or a grid system where maybe you make a 2-way road one way and add a bike lane, or you take out parallel parking and make that a bike lane. You're just rejiggering what's out there, but we don't have that option here because we deal with a lot of old county roads and old layouts that are narrow. So in the beginning of complete streets, a lot of towns on the Cape were not adopting it, and I know this because I was a consultant trying to push it, because I thought it made sense and it could be applicable if you did it the right way. In the past 4 or 5 years, there's been a lot more Cape towns that have develop complete streets policies. So the first step is you develop a policy, which basically just, it's not all that detailed, but basically says, all right, when you're going to do drainage projects or whatever type of project, you'll look at implementing complete streets. And I know Brewster's doing this now on a couple projects. Once that policy, it'll be my problem soon. Once that policy is adopted, then the next step is to create a prioritization plan. So I think Clem, this is sort of one of the things that you're thinking about. And that prioritization plan basically is a full look at the town, and identify. It's a prioritization plan, but it's also a bit of a gap analysis. And that gap analysis is looking across the town to what facilities you have, where do you have sidewalks, where do you have bike lanes, where's the bike trail go through, and then how do you create meaningful connections? So you might have a sidewalk that's 100 feet missing, and if you built 100 feet, it would make a real meaningful connection from one thing to another. So that would be high up on the priority plan. So I think complete streets is a good way to do this, and the board of Selectmen were on board with this when I brought it up for Route 28, but then I just never pushed it because we were so focused on Route 28. That was why we were pushing complete streets at the time. I think there's other value in it, and it's not this complete streets deal does not mean you're doing the full cross section of Mass DOT complete streets. It could mean that you're doing a 2-foot shoulder where you had 6 inches, and a 2-foot shoulder compared to 6 inches is a world of difference for a biker. I mean, a standard bike handlebar is 2 feet wide. So and the feel when you ride it, because I've ridden a lot of roads and with my GoPro on and seen how cars react, whether you have, even if you just have an extra foot, it makes a huge difference. So I think there's ways to make, I think the concern with the Cape originally was that, hey, we can't build, 6-foot bike lanes and sidewalks on both sides and make it work. But I think there's ways to make incremental improvements that make a world of difference. So I think that would be something that would be worth pursuing. And the commission is happy to help create those policies, hold a public hearing and whatnot.
I found something that you just said, Griffin, was you look to see if you can implement anything in these townwide complete street policies, not you have to.
Correct. Big difference.
Because I know as a person who rides a bicycle, I really detest granite curbs.
Yep.
Because the bicyclist has nowhere to go if a car swerves too close. So it's having the berms or something that you can get over is really an important piece of some of this for safety on both ends, not just this, put in the concrete, the 6-inch concrete thing and you get a pedal caught on that and you're down for the count.
You make
so
a really good
it's kind of trying to make a practical improvement.
Yep.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
So I hate to be devil's advocate, and Griff made a very articulate, passionate argument for why it makes sense. However, Madam Chair, you were on the Board of Selectmen when I lost a $5 million project due to 2-foot shoulders or 4-foot shoulders. We had design exemptions from a 5-foot shoulder and no sidewalks. I lost 124 over a butt objection and the board not staying cohesive, right? So my experience, Clem, with this, and I hate to be
I voted for it.
Is it? I know you did, and you were the one. You and Angelo had the fortitude to stick in there, even when I recommended against it, because I was tired of the beatings I was taking for a year and a half. Anyhow, and I actually owe, in part, still being with Howard, I think, due to you having a level head during one of those site walks. Remember the incident. So, Clem, I think it's all, and forgive my bluntness here, is pie in the sky planning. But when it comes to it, I have been unsuccessful to widen a number of roads. I've had Long Pond Drive made great sense to widen and put shoulders when we resurfaced it. Would be a template model connecting up infrastructure. 137 was being widened and had bike lanes, connect that up to an existing bike path. I went to the Board of Selectmen and they said, yeah, it sounds good, but no, we have some objection and, you know, we don't think it's a good idea. My part is Link Hooper doesn't own these damn roads. The Board of Selectmen does. And it all sounds great until you actually go to do it. And then the butter objection comes out and I've ended up spinning my wheels. I've had a number of projects where I just wanted to widen the road to provide for shoulders. Shoulders aren't just for bicyclists, folks. Shoulders provide a clear zone for your, a place to pull over in an emergency, a place to place snow. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to have shoulders. As a DPW director, I value the shoulders. But, huge but, I have not found the political will existing to do that when the butter objection comes out. Millstone Road right now is emulating what happened to me on 124, and they did way more outreach than I did, and they just got their hat handed to them, and now they want to sit on it for a while. I think that's an excellent project. All they're talking about is a sidewalk on one lane, a sidewalk on one side, and 2-foot shoulders. I think they're, and it's still is practically dead right now until Griff shows up and rescues it. So, Clem, I think good planning exercises, great, but when it comes to actually building it, I got to tell you that I don't think the palette exists to do it. And I hate to be so negative advocate with it, but I've tried on probably a dozen roads throughout the years in advance of paving. We know we need to replace it. And every time I do, I get my hat handed to me.
Yeah, that's a shame. I appreciate the input though tremendously, Link. You know, as a progressive idea, I just think, you know, we're dealing with the immediate now, and I just see the congestion factor not decreasing, but you know, increasing as we go forward. And it would be, again, it's very idealistic. That's my Shakespearean flaw. But it would be great to be able to promote a bike lane system that people understood. This is where you bike. Let's not randomly be biking on roads that are not suited for bicycle traffic. And I mean, it's just a layman's perspective, but Link, when you see that, you just shake your head. What the hell is that guy doing on a bike with no lights? He's wearing black. It's dusk. And it's a road that, you know, is inadequate to begin with.
So I guess we got Clem as one vote on South Street. You know, I think South Street was actually marked up as a share the road street for the bicyclists. So, you know, Clem, it's just every time I've done one of these, I mean, you know, you saw Lower County Road go down in flames. You know, somebody have to do that. We put a $500,000 Band-Aid on that. I'm simply saying that if it was my road, under my jurisdiction, I'd be like, absolutely, let's do this every time we're going to resurface a road, widening it to provide adequate shoulders. Unfortunately, when the abutters show up, and at times it can even be requests from people, hey, you got to do this. And then once you go and stake it and show them, they're like, nah, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I envisioned. Everybody has their lawns, their mailboxes, fences, the town's right away, and they view that as their property. And when you go to try to correct that, even as nicely as you can, I have not had great success.
I feel your pain.
I'm gonna toss in, the bicyclists don't help either. But you've got 2 and 3 people riding bikes in a bicycle down a narrow street, or you have them not stopping at the intersections, and even if they stop and then ride their bicycle across, they don't stop, whip around corners, and don't use hand signals to let the driver of the vehicle know they're taking a left. It would be like you, who would be nice to know. So there's some of this that goes back to personal behavior. And no amount of you know, that's a huge issue here is we do not function very responsibly. Anything else to be brought up today? Cool. All right then. I guess we're about ready to adjourn. It's 11:30. And I think we're good to go. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good
Everyone
luck.
have a great day.
Good luck, Greg.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.